also very warm welcome from my side. Thanks for joining in. We would like to, just have a quick look at today's agenda. Jürgen and me will do a quick intro, and then we're just gonna have a talk about the 6 R's. I know there's many more than 6 R's, but just the 6 R's on cloud migration, the most common ones. We'll have a look at the texture tool. And then, we can have a little Q&A session at the end. Feel free to ask questions if you have any. And with this, I would probably hand over to Jürgen, and you'll start.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan, from my side as well. A warm welcome to our webinar today. So my name is Jürgen Wiese. I'm the Partner Program Manager at OVHcloud for the DACH region. So Texture is an important partner, and today's topic blends very well into our go-to-market strategy, providing a perfect match moving into the cloud. So we go to the next slide, please. So maybe just a few words about OVHcloud. So OVHcloud is the largest European-based hyperscaler founded by Octave Clabat in 1999 in France. And fast forward 20 years later, OVHcloud is listed at the Euronext stock exchange and employs more than 2,400 people across the globe. So we are serving approximately 1.6 million customers in 140 countries. So as an infrastructure provider, we deploy more than 1 million servers, 14 locations in 33 mostly owned data centers worldwide. Another important fact is that our energy usage within our data centers is based on the energy efficiency indicator. It's a PUE, which is 1.14. Thanks to the patented water cooling of our servers, we beat the average of 1.67. It's mostly then air cooled, and we will be carbon neutral in the coming years.
Cool.
Next,
So I'll just do the quick intro on Texture here on the other side. We're a holistic transformation platform. We do end-to-end cloud transformations, which can help you as clients to increase transformation speed and automate some of the cloud cost calculations, but also the migration processes or migration waves. This works with any public cloud provider, but also we can integrate private clouds. We can have a look at this. This is more a cost calculation and like recommendation tool, and which can deliver you insights. We're not quite there yet with 20 years. We only have 5 or 6 years now. We're quite a young company out of Austria, looking forward to bigger projects in the future. Jürgen, back to you.
Yeah, can you go to the next slide, please? So just a few words about OVHcloud to continue. So OVHcloud is designing, building, and operating its own data centers. We are also designing and manufacturing most of our server systems. So we are offering, in this case, a wide range of infrastructure as a service, PaaS, and SaaS solutions in collaboration with partners like Texture, and expand our portfolio constantly. So we operate in 4 major cloud universes to drive a multi-cloud approach. So it's the bare metal cloud. It's really enterprise solutions on dedicated servers. Then we have the private cloud. This is powered on VMware. It's a 100% dedicated hardware infrastructure. Then, of course, the public cloud based on standards like Kubernetes and OpenStack. And then lastly, web cloud, collaborative solutions in hosting services. So customer trust is our top priority, especially if you're operating data centers. So to achieve this, we certify our platforms and solutions to the very highest security standards. So this is based on 3 key pillars. So the first is the global security management. So this is based on mostly ISO standards. Independent auditors regularly monitor and evaluate the level of security compliance of the solutions we offer. They then issue certificates and audit reports. So the second one are local or regional standards. As we're headquartered in Europe, protecting data confidentiality is central to our business. So in line with the GDPR, as well as the country-specific standards like C5 for Germany, SecNumCloud in France, AGIT and ENS in other countries. So we are providing all these kind of standards and regulations. And lastly, we have specifically sectoral compliance, which means if you look at specific industries like healthcare, finance, and public sector, we have also very specific standards here as well. You can go to the next slide, please. So one word to interoperability. This is the key for providing a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud platform to our customers. So we believe in the trend that customers and partners will apply the best possible platform for their needs or operating their solutions. This means to use from an infrastructure as a service perspective, for example, open source, which is Kubernetes or OpenStack, or broad product or market standards such as Anthos, VMware, Nutanix, just to name a few. So in this specific strategy supports as much as possible avoiding vendor lock-in based on proprietary systems or products. In addition, OVHcloud is also strongly involved in initiatives that drive those broad standards like the Linux Foundation, Gaia-X. So OVHcloud is a founding member of Gaia-X, and then Cloud Native and many others. So I just want to give you this brief overview on OVHcloud. If you want to know more about OVHcloud, please ping me. I'm happy to give you more information. And with this short intro, I would like to hand over to Stefan for a deep dive into app modernization in the cloud and the approach that Texture provides.
Yeah, thank you, Jürgen, for that. That's a very, very good intro. So maybe let's just start with the challenges we usually see, or why Texture got to the platform build that we have now is, well, obviously going into the cloud is a big topic. It's been a big topic for years, and so a lot of times you will see obviously the troubles or potential challenges that companies face when trying to go into site, but also decide which provider to choose, where to host it, and so on, or already had some cloud strategies in the back where it was like a end of life cycle and a pressure of management to move certain applications or parts into the cloud, and then they ended up in vendor lock-ins and maybe even had higher fixed costs in the end than in the beginning. So for that, we try to build a platform that gives you the option to assess all your data, all your application landscape with certain assessment rules. I will show you in a quick demo later on how this all works and how we do it, but then to use those assessment rules to show you different scenarios based on the 6 R's that this webinar is all about today. There has been original 5 R's back in 2010 or 11 that changed over time, also got more adapted to cloud. I know there's more than the 6 we're going to talk about, but most of them can be put together with some of the major 6 ones. So our approach for that is fully to integrate as much data as you have or as you can. This is semi-automatic. We have, I can show you in the demo later as well how this works. Where you can see on the top line here is the 6R assessment is actually quite necessary step or big step in making your road mapping and your migration road mapping and your target architecture. This is one of the points that sits in front of it, right? So when you get your migration business case, you have a need or an urge, or some of the infrastructure needs to be moved, or just certain SaaS products and so on. Once this is all established, you use Texture to generate certain scenarios, which can be along the 6 R's. And for that, you have to use all kinds of data sources, obviously, to get all your data into. Oh, sorry about that. And those architecture or target architecture proposals then end up on. You can also choose which vendor or which provider you're going to take, and this gives you recommendations on your future cloud migration. We don't do migrations. I'm just going to say it up front. With the assessment platform, you still would have to use the system integrator or as yourself to then actually operate those migration waves. Any questions so far? If not, then this is just maybe a quick overview on the 6 R's that we talked about, or that we're going to talk about. Anything that's on here is basically along the business value and the migration effort or cost. Obviously, retaining something is always going to be the cheapest option, or not. Depends on maybe the life cycle of something, or the costs that would face renewal of that system. Whereas replacing, or the classic lift and shift, is obviously the replatforming on top is obviously the bigger or the most valuable cloud and advantages on that axis. Every single application to get one of those R's needs to be assessed, not just on a technical level, and that's something that Texture does really well, or can give you insights on. Every little aspect of an application is not just evaluated on a technical level, if it's actually cloud ready, so to say, but also there's more factors that run into the 6 R migration strategies. There's also a business factor, compliance factor. Jürgen mentioned the compliance, and data security is also an option, but also deployment locations, also redundant capabilities. Is it even necessary? So, for example, another company acquires another company which also has another 1,000 of applications. Where's the overlap? Which apps are going to be redundant? Do I even have to move all of them to a cloud, or is there already cloud services I can use? All those factors obviously run into the assessment. And how we do this, and where this happens, I will probably just jump into a quick little demo. Hold on here. Oops. So I hope you can see my dashboard here. Yep. So this is basically the start of the first view that everyone has in the Texture platform. The dashboard. All those dashboards are freely configurable. You can move them around, add widgets. All those widgets can be generated based on the data set that's in Texture. And all those dashboards can then be sent to different users and roles, which you can select in here. For example, you as a consultant use Texture to do a big migration project with a customer. You will have a team at the customer side, which some of them will have roles that need to obviously do a lot of data mapping, or like have to actually work on the Texture platform, whereas others will only want to see what the actual process is. And then you can just basically send them an overview or just a dashboard view where they see, okay, what is the migration status at the moment? How many applications are already on Texture? What are the risks, and so on. So you can freely select everything on those dashboards. Let's look into the actual transformation cockpit. This is where things get interesting. This is the actual 4 steps of textures assessment and migration suggestion. The first one, and that's a very vital part, is the discovery. Here is basically the overview of all the assets or applications you already connected to a texture. How this works is through a series of data sources. We have pretty much any option you can think of when it comes to generic sources, from REST IPAs or just simple CSV files or Excel and so on, but also vendor-specific sources. So in case there's already existing cloud products in use or applications already with certain connections, then we can also certainly connect to those. It's ServiceNow and all the others, just to mention a couple. So once all those data points are connected and in the discovery phase listed, then you will have all the overview of every single application in here. And in every single application, you will see the data completeness, and if there's problems with the data completeness. That is a very important point when it comes to the 6R assessment, because the 6R assessments, or based on those assessment rules, it can only be done when a lot of data is present and major data completeness problems are solved. To solve data completeness problems, you can use surveys, basically send out surveys straight out of texture to the application owners. That helps to basically establish more insights into how the applications get run, or to map further connections and links to other applications, or to get more insights on cost and so on and so on. This happens by just sending it out in the data completeness problems. Then the application owner will get one of those links and can then when you click on start, you can then just fill out the information. This happens in real time on the texture platform, means that whatever gets edited here and entered gets straight into texture. This helps to establish a higher data completeness and also to gain more insights for the migration suggestions. There we go. All right, back to the transformation cockpit. So for example, here we already have a high data completeness. This is just a demo instance where we can use maybe one that has most of them probably will have a quite high data completeness. Anyway, once the data completeness is reached in the assessment phase, which is the second phase, this is the phase where the 6 R's come into play. And this is where your preferred initial strategy can be selected, which means in here you can either set an overall strategy, migration strategy for all the applications along the 6 R's as we just saw, and also the timing of those. This can either happen for your portfolio, but also for every single application. And this is either a manual selection, or it happens through the actual let's go back here, or it happens through the assessment rules. And those assessment rules are just basically along that slide I showed you with the multiple aspects of every single application that have to be considered. Along those lines, we established around 80 rules. We're constantly growing those rule sets with our customers whenever there's a need, or consultancy has bigger clients that want to look into a certain aspect that is not mentioned in the rules. We can add certain rules along the way, but along those 4 basic criteria, every single application is assessed on the business perspective, but also obviously on the technical configurations. And you can also select or unselect certain rules if they're not applicable for the strategy you want to use, or if it doesn't help in any way to gain higher data completeness. The less rules that are selected, obviously, the easier it is to reach data completeness. This is also something you can use to create another user and show the client the cloud benefits of every single application. This is basically what we saw on the slide earlier along the X and Y axis. The higher the cloud benefit and the migration risks on or the cloud readiness in this case on the bottom. This works for risk and readiness as well as for risk and benefit. The third part of the transformation cockpit is then the target architecture. And this also works again for every single application or as an overall on your portfolio. And you can compare different scenarios, but also you can edit the preferences on the service model. You can also add new providers. Let's, for example, add OVHcloud here, and the landing zones, as well as certain certification requirements. As Jürgen mentioned, especially in Europe or in financial industries, it's very important to have certain certification standards. We have pretty much everything there is. So this will help you to then show only products that fulfill those certain criteria or standards. Locations as well, if it needs to be hosted in Germany, for example, or in the EU, when it comes to the cloud strategy or policies, then you can also edit those here. You can save those preferences and then and landing zones, and then go back to the proposals. And for example, let's try to get one in here and go into every single application and see the available proposals. Go for re-platforming, for example. For this application, you would have every single provider that you pre-selected. You have certain proposals, but you can also then compare them to each other and look into the specifics. It basically gives you a cost list, but also like a shopping list on which products you would have to buy at the provider of your choosing. Let's see, maybe the business relation manager. Very interesting here. When you click into a single application on the prices, you can also go further down and have a look at the deployment stack and what it does or what it changes in this recommended migration strategy. So here's certain sorry about that. Certain things get replaced. So this one will be those which will be removed. Those will be replaced, the SQLs, and the actual application will be replatformed. This is quite handy to show to clients, for example. This is basically just a table on the bill of materials that would be needed. And here we go. You can also have an overview on the actual costs if you, for example, use it for 1 year or retained, reserved for up to 3 years, 2 years, and so on. So there's the option of that. All those prices are included for every single provider. So there you can also use those to make a comparison, for example, log certain proposals in. And those are just the ones that are recommended. You can always create your own proposals by creating basically new ones or edit those proposals, add comments and say, okay, this app, we decided on a certain strategy. So those are basically then the target architecture proposals. And the fourth step in the transformation cockpit and transformation phase in texture is the road mapping. Here we go. This is just a migration recommendation to then have certain waves that go after the business criticality, for example, or the easiest applications get to choose in the first migration wave. In-house development comes later, that certain things that have to be refactored and so on. This is just a migration suggestion or those migration waves based on the initial strategy you choose, but this is not a migration manager, as I said. So those are basically the 4 parts of Texture's transformation cockpit. Also, maybe one thing worth to mention or show is the actual structure when it comes to mapping data or gaining insights in application links and dependencies. This helps a lot to work closely with customers or clients to establish links, but also see how certain applications or business processes run together. And this is also then divided into the business architecture, the application architecture, and the actual infrastructure architecture. This is just something where Texture really shines to graphically visualize the stacks and business structure. Yeah, I think this is pretty much a quick rundown of the transformation process or our platform. I just wanted to ask if anyone has questions or wants to see something in specific. I can look into it again. This would be the time to do it. Okay. Jürgen, you got anything to add on our end? Otherwise, we could.
No, we can continue. So I think it was a good overview on the different ways how to move applications and hardware to the cloud. That's good.
Perfect. I will also send out the slide deck and also a link to one of our blog articles on the 6 R's. I think this is also quite good information. And yeah, we're happy to do obviously one-on-ones and further discussions on the actual use of texture in your migration projects. Maybe a couple of best practices here that I just showed you in the demo. What I mentioned in the beginning is obviously the criticality of data. Data is obviously the major point of those assessments. Try to import as much as you can, and everything that's missing, try to either manually map or gain more further insights through surveys. The communication is one of the things that I also showed with the user profiles. Texture really helps to put the project teams together on the client, but also on the consultancy or SI side. And the more you include those application owners, the more insights you also get, and then it also becomes clearer to actually have an overview on costs, which is also a very important factor. We can only show estimates in texture, but the further you go into application details with the owners, the more insights you also gain the costs, and therefore can actually do proper business case calculations. Yes, I think that's basically it from my end.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys.